Hello, everybody, and a warm welcome back to Blanka Talks, episode 3, and the beginning of a new year entirely. And in this episode, we will be talking about the subject of the visionary teacher. I'm Anna-Karin Berg, the host of Blanka Talks, which is Drottning Blanka Cybernsnitz High School's international talk show with and for teachers. Our very important contributors in this program series are Varkey Foundation and Teachers Without Borders, and of course, the most important ones, our teachers from all over the world. Now, it may be a bit too positive to begin this year by talking about visions and dreams, since we're all experiencing right now hardship and concerns when it comes to COVID and, of course, other worldly matters. But I'd say this is exactly the time when we need to take a breath, raise our gaze, and dare to dream and imagine what we can do and why we do it. So let's hear from some very visionary people in education. In today's talk, we will meet Louise Parrow, a devoted teacher of English and history at Drottning Blanka, Stockholm, Kungsholmen. Louise has a background of working with children of all ages, and now she gets to do a mix of both. One is teaching teenagers the right skills to acquire knowledge and address current issues using youth literature. And the other one is to see and understand the world through her 2-year-old's eyes. Our other guest today is Rachel Evans. She is a passionate principal at the Nova School Sunderland International outside of Malaga, Spain. From studying law at Liverpool University, she, during a gap year as an au pair in Italy, decided to switch careers entirely. She has now been in education for 22 years, starting out as a primary teacher and now a principal of 700 students, and she can't imagine ever doing anything else. So my first question to you, dear guests, what are you dreaming about right now? Louise.
Oh, I dream about connecting and interaction with other people again. I really miss that. I think that's the one thing that has suffered the absolute most. Even though we have the digital area, I really feel like experiencing other people, experiencing cultures, is the one thing that I really dream of doing again. Well, how about you, Rachel?
My dream right now is to be able to travel again. It's one of the things that I've really missed. I'm not just traveling with my family in the traditional sense, but I'm also talking about traveling with my students. Every year we used to organise a wonderful theatre trip to London, and we haven't been able to do that. And so for me to be able to now start dreaming and planning trips abroad, and who knows, one day even come to Sweden. I think it's something that really does keep me motivated.
Yeah, we would love to have you here in Sweden, preferably when the weather is a little bit better and warmer. And of course, we would love to visit you in Malaga, Spain. Sounds lovely, but you told me it's not that nice now. The weather is not what we used to or we want to.
No, it's rather dismal today, although it's not raining, but it is a myth. It doesn't always shine in Spain. We do have a little bit of winter as well, but I think it's a lot warmer, definitely, than where you are.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And we've been having quite some storms as well. But anyway, thank you for telling me about the things that you're dreaming. And I completely agree with you as well. I think one of the things I really miss and dream about is traveling and just experiencing new atmospheres, new environments, meeting different people with other cultural perspectives and so on. So I really hope that we will soon be able to do that again. So looking forward to that. Now, I would like to introduce you and our viewers today to another educator with a dream to change the school system in the Netherlands. His name is Jelmer Evers. He is known as a Global Teacher Prize Ambassador, which is the award that Varkey Foundation gives to teachers from all over the globe. And he was nominated for one of these awards. And now he is an ambassador. But anyways, he is also the mind behind flipping the Dutch educational system into becoming more teacher and student-centered. He has written 2 books, The Alternative, which is one of the most influential books in Dutch education, and the other book is called Flip the System. He was supposed to be with us today as well, but he could not, regrettably. But we are going to show you a little bit, a clip of a TEDx talk that he did in Amsterdam about his vision and his dream to be able to flip the system at the school he works at to begin with. So let's have a look at that clip.
It has to do with the way the education system is built. A top-down pyramid where lots of people are saying what we have to do and we just do it. As voluntary slaves, teachers are doing what other people tell them to do. But how is that possible? You know, remember, your best teachers, they're the ones that inspire you. They aren't voluntary slaves. They're self-aware persons who really want to make a difference for their children. But through different kind of means how we organize the system, this top-down system, standardized testing, the exams, performance pay for teachers, all these different kind of things trickle down towards my classroom. And I noticed at one stage that I started to think, I have to be aware of my grade average. So maybe I'll introduce another test. And don't start teaching history anymore, but teaching to the test. And that really started to make me wonder again. I really want to stay in teaching. I really want to work at UNIC. But how can I do that if the system doesn't allow me to teach? And then a wonderful thing happens. One of my students asked me, so, Jelmer, you're always asking us to, you're always telling us we can change the world. That's what we do. We tell people here at TEDx as well. So why aren't you doing it yourself? We've been talking about education quite a lot. And then you're quite aware. I think you have the solution, so why aren't you changing it? And it really hit home. Are we really doing what we're saying? Are we really being that person that we want to be? And I think I wasn't, and I think a lot of teachers aren't. And I think that's where the solution lies. I started tweeting, blogging, connecting to all these different kinds of organizations, and I found loads of different people who were on the same page as me. They had different kinds of ideas about education, but we all thought it could be different, and they all thought we should have more say in how we should run education, as with parents and teachers. And that led to a wonderful meeting with a really traditional teacher. I'm a really progressive teacher, René Knijber. He's a friend of mine. We met online, we wrote an article online, and then we decided also to publish a book, Het Alternatief, The Alternative. And it was never meant as just a book. It was always meant as being a symbol and trying to change the system. And there's no better way of understanding something if you want to, than changing it. That should always be the purpose. And the book really made an impact. We asked loads of teachers, 50 teachers contribute to it, lots of researchers, international researchers, and about a month after publication, it was discussed in Parliament. The Minister of Education was already discussing it. Parliamentarians had already read it. We talked about the book, and they said, well, hey, this is a good idea. This is maybe how we should run our education system, so why are we doing all these wrong things? The thing we came up with is flip the system. Let's change that pyramid. Let's put teachers in charge again of the whole education system. And can we really trust teachers? Well, if we really trust teachers, you should give them authority. You should give them the means to really make a difference for their children. Because what happens in the system we're still working in, and globally lots of people are still working in, we're not looking at the child. It's more like what the child can do for the school. It's the other way around. And that's really the wrong way of doing it. In this system, every teacher has to take responsibility, because you have the responsibility. There's no metric, there's no test, there's no manager telling you what to do. You have to look at the child in this system. And it has to be from the school onwards into the national system, regional system, and there's a way how we can achieve that. There's loads of different areas all around the globe where this is happening already. And that's what we learned, flipping the system.
It's, I just love watching this and how he opens with kind of like a shocking statement where he says voluntary slavery. And first I went, okay. But then when he elaborates and explains, like, why are we doing things that are not working, where it actually means that students have to adapt to a system that may not be working in our society. And I can say when I work with Drottning Blanka schools and academia in general, we have a lot of surveys that we do and so on. But this is also a way to just locate things that where we feel that this is not working. We need to do something else. And what can we do? So that's one of the important things, I think, what really got me about Jelmer Evers. What do you think, Rachel, when you listen to this part?
I thought the phrase putting teachers back in control epitomizes for me something that has been missing in education for so long. We are professionals. Let us do our job and make a difference, because I think we get bogged down with too many other things. Let us do what we train to do. And I think if, as you say, flipping the system, it's a great analogy of how we should really go back to the basics of education years and years ago, even referring back to Victorian times where the teacher was in control. Obviously, I'm not going back to that kind of ideology of teaching, but certainly put teachers back in control. Let us do what we do best, and that is to teach.
Absolutely. What do you say, Louise?
I completely agree. And I think it's a lot about being the leader in the classroom, but also being a role model for your students outside of the classroom. And I think the government needs to recognize that the teachers are the ones that actually know what each child needs and not to talk about us as a profession.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. One of our projects that we do also with Drottning Blanka is that we have lead teachers in classroom management in order to regain that control. And I'm really looking forward to see how it might, really support teachers in getting back in that position. So yeah. But Jelmer is also kind of like a symbol of a vision that he had, and then he was doubting himself, but got encouraged by his students. But what would you say is, do you think it's important to have a vision as a teacher? What do you say, Rachel?
Having a vision as a teacher for me is fundamental. The vision that we have should be our inspiration, what we aspire to be. And so for me, if you're not inspired yourself, then how on earth are you going to inspire others in the sense of your students? And of course, with that, also the members of your staff, for example. I also feel that if you don't have a clear vision, then how on earth are you going to measure and evaluate your success? Because ultimately, your vision is your ideal. And so, if you don't have that, and obviously, in terms of being a teacher, we always have to review and reflect. And I also think a vision should be organic as well. It should change as we develop. And as we grow as professionals, your vision will adapt and take on maybe a different direction or a different objective. I think it's very sad when you see a teacher that's become stagnant or dormant, if you want. And for me, it's that sign then that they have lost their motivation, they've lost sight of their vision. And it's a very, very sad moment in anyone's career when you get to that point. And so, yeah, absolutely. A vision, it's the key to keep us inspired, motivated, and ultimately enthusiastic.
Absolutely. It's our fuel, I think. Absolutely. How about you, Louise?
I think the question really is, why did you choose teaching? Why do you teach? Because the job really isn't the curriculum. We have internet for that. Your job isn't to just learn facts and get a standard grade and a mark based on that fact. You are teaching tomorrow's leaders. You are teaching citizens, global citizens, and they need to understand and be able to analyze that. Your job is to work with them and to have them grow as people. That's the job. And if you can't do that, then you might not want to be a teacher.
I remember you, Louise, also saying that, as you just said right now, that it's more important to teach them the skills in order to acquire knowledge than just the knowledge itself. That you have to have this kind of balance and combination as well.
Exactly.
So what do you think is, what vision do you have for education? Like, what vision do you have, Louise, for education?
Skill-based. It needs to be skill-based and not age-based in terms of not only the grade that students are in, but also maybe their movement in that grade and within our school system. Because it's, like you said, it's not about the fact and the figure, it's about how they can use that fact and how they use the figures to figure things out. And kids do that at different rates. And it's not something they should be punished for. Why not have them move further up, and why not have them get materials that they need? You have to teach the kid in front of you, not the kids that the government tells you to teach.
Yeah, and this also, of course, goes hand in hand with what Jelmer is talking about as well. You start with the individual. So Rachel, I mean, you have also gone through, I mean, you started out as a primary teacher and now a principal. So do you have different visions, or well, being in different roles? Or
I am, even though I am the principal, I also have a teaching timetable. I teach drama and theatre studies. So I haven't lost my touch with reality of what it's like as a teacher. I think my vision for education is quite similar in a sense to Louise's. It's all about a holistic approach to education. I really feel that we put too much pressure on our students, and it becomes too much about academic success. I think as teachers, we have a moral obligation to prepare our students to enter into this big bad world, being prepared and having instilled in them qualities that we should be able to teach alongside the academic subjects. Of course, grades and access to university is reliant on that, but we have an obligation to teach skills as well. One of the things that we have here at Nova Schools Sunderland is we follow the Cambridge International Curriculum. And so part of that is what's known as the learner's attributes, and things like teaching resilience, respect, an awareness of the environment, sustainability, things sometimes we take for granted, like being able to work as a team. And I think ultimately part of this curriculum, which is for me, really does stand out, is it allows time for us to really instill in our students a love, if you want, of learning. And ultimately, that's what you want. You want your students to leave and carry on with this passion and not think of it in isolation that, okay, I finish school, I go to university, and that's it. Learning should be a cycle throughout every aspect of your life. And I think that's really, for me, is this idea of a holistic approach to education.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really think also it's so important for teachers to understand that the mark of a great teacher isn't the grade that you give your child. Completely. And I refer to students as my children, because they are very much loved by me as a mother. But I really think the truly great teachers, they watch their students grow. And it's important as a teacher to understand that you need to have an interest in your student in order for them to have an interest in you and what you are trying to teach them. Mm-hmm. And if you really try as a teacher to only focus on the curriculum, you're going to lose your students, because that's not what they're really there for. They're in a part of growing up, and you are forced to be a role model and a coach. That's what you're doing there.
And I think in a sense that links back to your vision, your personal vision as a teacher. Like you said, an interesting comment, they can acquire information off the internet, but what we're there to do is to teach them the life skills that they're going to need. And as you say, we should be role models for our students. Part of my role in the school is also a mentor to certain students, and they come to me with their problems, and, rather than find solutions for them, I try to help them find the solutions for themselves. And I think it's an important role we as teachers have to be aware of sometimes, is, knowing when to guide your students, but also knowing when to say, I'm going to give you the means for you to find the solution.
Absolutely. And I think that's so important, that you are teaching the children how to behave in the society, like as an adult. And as an adult, you have to be the more adult. So you have to kind of teach them how to move forward. I work with high school students, so a lot of them are, they're in their late teens or maybe even early 20s, some of them. And I think that's really important for them to understand that I see you as a person, and I can help and guide you through whatever you're going through. But there's also certain things where you have to leave it to those who are professionals in that area and to guide them through that channel. And that's okay, because you see these kids more than they see their parents. So you will know more about them than a lot of other people in their society and in the circle that they have. And if that's not something that you're prepared to do, then you really need to question your profession and why you are doing it. Because if you're teaching in a modern society, you have to be a modern teacher.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree. But I was also thinking, what does it take to maintain this what does it take to fuel this teachers' visions that they might have? Because sometimes you perhaps, now we have you, Rachel, you're working as a principal now, and Louise, you're a teacher. And my background in teaching, I, of course, remember certain things about what fueled my vision. And you were talking about our values as well, that this is like what we want for our students, but also what kind of world we want to live in. But when everything is hectic and we focus on tests that are coming up, or it's especially now during the pandemic, it's been very stressful because people have been homesick, and it's just a very stressful, and we perhaps lose that kind of touch with our vision. But Rachel, how did you support your teachers in having their visions and having these dreams and continuing to fuel themselves as well?
What we have in place here is a very, very strong system, an appraisal system. It's been in place, and most schools will have, or should at least have, an appraisal system whereby senior management will meet regularly with staff members through appointments, or sometimes even just on an ad hoc basis. And it's through these meetings where we offer guidance. For example, if a teacher is finding a particular aspect to the job difficult, then it's our jobs to then guide them where they can find that support. An appraisal system should really be about focusing on the strengths of the teachers, but also being aware that everybody has weaknesses. And the way to acknowledge your weaknesses is not to say it's a weakness, but to say it's something that I need to develop. Mm-hmm. I think teachers must feel able to come to senior management leaders or next in line management and be able to open up and speak about their visions. Are they achieving their vision? What obstacles are there in the way for them not being able to achieve their vision? And so for us as leaders and in education, we have to then support them and sometimes just listen and know when to not speak, but let them do the speaking. I think so, as teachers and as we tend to overthink and speak too much, and we forget the skills to listen, which is so fundamental in this kind of appraisal system, is letting them lead the meeting, because ultimately you're there to support them, and it allows them to develop then as individuals.
Exactly. And I feel like it's so important to understand the difference between being listened to and being heard. Because a lot of the times people will hear what you have to say, but they will not actually do anything about it. They won't actually listen to what you are trying to say. And I think that's the main thing that teachers really need from management, but also from the government. You need to listen to us. We are the professionals in what we are doing. We have certificates, we have IDs, we have a long education, and we are the ones that actually meet our students. We know what they need. And you need to listen and help guide us so that we can make that happen for them. But that also means funding. I really think we need central funding, and we need a central understanding of what not only the curriculum should be, but what the main goal of teaching should be. And I think in the Swedish curriculum, we obviously have a lot about democracy and environment, and we teach a lot about resilience. And I think that's one of the main great aspects of Swedish education.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, because I was thinking about, as we said, the support from government and so on, and policymakers, of course, you mentioned funding, and so on. So, and as you, Rachel, being a leader, as a principal as well, as you said, the differentiation between listening and hearing what other people are saying. As you said as well, having this guidance, like, yes, you have this vision, but I think it's also important as a leader or being a colleague or whatever to also help each other. Okay, but this is your vision, your dream, and this is what keeps you going and what drives you, but also help each other out in creating like a kind of practical plan of what would be the next step for you to take in order to kind of realize this and make this happen as well. So yes, absolutely. I mean, just one example is this talk show that we're having right now. One of my visions was I just want people or teachers to meet and talk to each other about different things. And I want us to talk about positive things that inspires us. And this is why we're sitting here today. I had great support from my boss and from everyone, and from Academedia Academy, and it was just amazing. So, you know, sometimes we just have to go for it and just like, okay, let's do this.
I think it's really important more than ever, Anna, that teachers right now feel valued. We have, I would say, held such a big responsibility recently, and I know at the start we don't want to dwell on the COVID pandemic, but it's out there, and you know, we as teachers were affected extremely seriously by this, and literally in the case of, and I'm sure it was similar worldwide, we had to adapt our complete way of teaching. Literally, sometimes we were given 24 hours notice that schools are closing. This was unheard of. And the amount of pressure, and it's still going on now with this hybrid system of teaching online, teaching in class, half and half, students in quarantine, teachers in quarantine, and also the fear of COVID, having to teach with your masks on, particularly here in Spain. I'm not sure about the laws in Sweden with regards to masks, but here we have to teach with masks. Teachers have been through an enormous upheaval. And I'm sure there are teachers right now, hopefully, watching this at the point in their careers thinking, can I continue? I am up to here. And I would say to you, please don't give up on our profession. We make such a huge contribution. And so, yes, we're going through a pretty awful and dismal time right now, but let's not lose sight of our vision and reflect on that. When you've had a really bad day and, I'm sure you've all seen the hysterical, posts on social media of teachers literally pulling their hair out of the online lessons. I think certainly that's made me laugh on occasions because it's like similar to what I've gone through. Keep your sense of humor, because I don't think nobody becomes a teacher unless they've got a good sense of humor, because we're working with students of all ages. We have to laugh at ourselves. and we have to make education fun. And as Louise says, I teach older students. I've had the experience of teaching right the way through from 6 years old, actually right the way to 18 years old. And we have to remain, calm, but also you have to keep our sense of humor throughout this situation. And so I think this program, I hope, will remotivate some of the people out there who are really suffering, because I know that it's been really hard.
Yeah, I totally. And thank you so much for saying this as well. I mean, because it is the whole point with having this, particularly this talk show, which is called The Visionary Teacher, because again, just raise your eyes and just like look out and take a deep breath again, and remember what you are doing and who you're doing it for and why you're doing it. And I don't think it takes, some people say that, oh, you have teachers are superheroes, but I don't think it's that. I mean, the teachers that are the great ones that we say, they're just human. And they just share their visions, they dare to dream with the students, and they just like model this behavior that they want the students to acquire as well. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so thank you. Yeah. Louise.
And I really think teachers need teachers. If anything, we need other teachers, not only your coworkers, because you can have a bad day and you are not supposed to go in and gaslight your students, but you can go in and you can talk to your coworkers and be like, help, I need help. And that's one of those things that you need your teacher friends, you need those people around you. And because you are teaching the same students, but you also need fresh eyes on looking at different students when you feel like you're in a gridlock. And I think that's so important, that you feel comfortable and you trust your coworkers enough to be able to do that. And you trust your management enough to do that. And I think that's really the main thing that helps other teachers grow, because your job isn't to know everything. Your job is to grow, just like you're teaching your students to grow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And now I'm actually going to ease into the final question that we have, which is, when you started out as a teacher, what visions and dreams did you have then, and has it changed over time with what you're saying now today in this show, and what drives you today? What about you? What do you say, Louise? Has it changed, or?
It has, in a way that I added to it. I understood very, very early on that diversity, it is a fact in our schools. It's not something that's ever going to change. But inclusion, that is the act. You need to include each child, each student in your classroom. But what I learned over the years is that the outcome of that is to belong. And if I want to teach my students to belong to society, rather than I want to teach inclusion and have an inclusive didactic, which we talk a lot about in Sweden, I think we need to move more towards what the outcome is supposed to be and work towards that. And what I really learned, most importantly, that I was not taught in university, is that you need to sometimes just forget that lesson plan. It is not important. Sometimes you have to just do what is needed inside of that classroom.
Absolutely brilliant. Yes.
So true. Yeah. Sometimes you just have to, let's just be in the moment. What's going on with you right now? How about you, Rachel? Has it changed over time, or is it like, as Louise said, has things been added to your vision?
I think
your visions?
When I started off my teaching career, I suppose my dream, and it maybe sounds slightly cliche, but my dream was to make a difference. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to feel that in some way the students that I've taught through my career will go on, and one day they will remember Miss Evans and say, oh, Miss Evans helped me do this. Miss Evans inspired me to become this. Or Miss Evans taught me, how to tie my shoelace. It doesn't matter. But when we talk about making a difference, those differences may be small, but they will have a ripple effect. And so my idealistic view, starting off with my career, was that I want to make a difference. Has it changed? I don't think it has changed. I still want to make a difference. and help shape futures and maybe help create future leaders and people who are going to go out there and shape the world and say and really become visionary people, and I want to be part of that. I part of my passion as a teacher is to I suppose help them achieve their goals. And I think if I can be a small part of that, it really does. It makes me quite emotional, actually, because through the 2 years of my career, I still have students now that often, contact me. It's a lot easier now. When I started off, we didn't have so much access to social media. But nowadays with social media, I do have still students who will contact me and say, "Oh, I remember that funny lesson," or whatever it was. And I think looking back, I suppose if I had to, I suppose, go back and say a couple of words to myself when I was starting off in my career, I think I would tell myself, have more confidence in your abilities, Rachel. I think as young teachers starting off their career, we doubt ourselves so much. And there's no need to. You're professionals. You're more than equipped to teach. But it's that little nagging doubt that, am I good enough? But just go with the flow and believe in yourselves, because if you believe in yourself, everything else fits into place. It's when you lack confidence, then teaching becomes a struggle, because that's when it affects your classroom management, because students would pick up on this immediately. They're very clued into that. So even if you might doubt your confidence, go in there confident, and enjoy it. Enjoy the experience of teaching. It's a wonderful, wonderful career, and I can't imagine doing anything different with my life.
No, I agree.
So much, Louise.
Sorry.
No,
I really agree. And I think it's so important that you understand that you teach the child in front of you. That is one of the best things that my principal has ever said to me, is that you teach the kid that is in front of you. Now, I understand, yes, grades are important. The curriculum is important. But sometimes that means that child, they will never pass. For whatever reason, they will never pass. But when you as a teacher can give them material and help them grow and move forward, at least those students know that they are seen, they are loved, and they are heard. And that is what you really want them to understand, and in order to become future leaders of the world and to become citizens. That's the job description. And I think when you have principles like that and you have management like that, you feel so much more inspired as a teacher as well.
Absolutely. Louise, what would you say to yourself starting out as a teacher, looking back? What would you say?
Don't be afraid to build relationships. Because in the beginning, I was like 22 when I graduated, and I looked like I belonged with those junior high school students. So it was one of those things where I was like, well, I cannot try and build relationships. No, I need to stick to the curriculum and be very much a strict teacher. And then I realized that is just never going to happen. That is not me. That is not the leader I am. And in order to be a great leader, in order to be a role model, you need to build relationships and form bonds with your students. And even, like Rachel said, even today, I still get students' feedback coming in now. Like, oh my God, that's my teacher. She's so great. Yes, I know.
Yeah, I think we need to remember those moments when our students give us this very positive feedback, and when after 10, 15 years, they contact us, as you said, Rachel, on social media, and it's just like, I just wanted to say hello. And I remember now there was a student, I was like, we had a difficult relationship in school, but he just wrote to me and he said, I just wanted to let you know that I'm doing okay. And I'm like, of course you're doing okay. I never doubted that. Of course. And I said, if I ever made you feel that you wouldn't be okay, then I'm sorry. And he's like, no. But it was just like, it's kind of like he just wanted to make sure that, I knew that you saw me, and I knew that we had our differences, but I'm okay, and I have a great life, wonderful children, and and I was like, wow, because it meant something to him to just reach out and let me know this, and that we had this memory of caring and sometimes having these struggles, but still it was in the end positive. So I want to thank you for being here today and taking the time again. And I'm so grateful because you really made my day and my entire week. And I think this is a fantastic start to a new semester and the rest of the year. So I just want to thank you again for taking the time and being here. So I think I'm gonna say goodbye to you now, and of course we're gonna make sure that you get all the links and everything to share, so everybody else can watch this fantastic episode too. Mm-hmm. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
And take care, and we'll be in touch so we can make that visit happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Bye. 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 So, in this episode, The Visionary Teacher, we've concluded that it is important to have a vision because it is what drives us, not only as educators, but as human beings, of course. As educators, without a vision or a purpose with what we're doing, we may lose sight of why we are teaching in the first place. I'd like to think that teaching isn't just a job, it's a mission to empower our students, to show them how they can contribute and to be a positive change in the world. But as I think Rachel and Louise so beautifully shared with us, is that we have to start with ourselves and define and understand what are our ideas and what are our visions. And thank you everyone for watching this episode and being part of this. And please stay safe and well. And again, thank you Nina and Rickard for making this happen. And we'll be in touch with you again about when the next Blanka Talks episode will be aired. And that episode is called The Collegial Teacher, where we will be talking about how to be a supportive colleague. So again, thank you so much for today, and bye.